they mocked a wounded soldier. 3 days later, she held their lives in her hands. This is the story of respect written in blood and silence. Staff Sergeant Lena Morgan limped across forward operating site Grayson. A bandage bled through her fatigues. Navy SEALs laughed. They didn't know she'd crawled into a burning truck to save 3 men. They didn't know one of them already owed her his life. 48 hours later, she'd be the only thing standing between them and death. Respect isn't given, it's proven, one tourniquet at a time. Before we begin, tell us, where are you watching from? And if you believe honor and courage still matter, help keep their legacy alive. They mocked a wounded soldier. 3 days later, she held their lives in her hands. This is the story of respect written in blood and silence. The sun over forward operating site Grayson hit like a furnace. Heat shimmered above the courtyard, bending air and color. Generators throbbed in the background, a steady heartbeat that never slept. Staff Sergeant Lena Morgan walked across the cracked concrete with a bandage bleeding through her fatigues. Every step left a faint red shadow in the dust. She didn't limp out of weakness. She limped because the ground demanded a toll. Near the comms building, 5 Navy SEALs leaned against a container wall, fresh to the base, their uniforms clean, their confidence louder than the rotor blades overhead. Chief Petty Officer Travis Coley tilted his sunglasses, watching her pass. "Look at that," he muttered. "Can't even walk straight." The comment landed like shrapnel. A ripple of laughter followed short, sharp, practiced cruelty disguised as humor. Hartley, the youngest, added, "Guess she's done playing soldier." Another laughed too loud, as if to prove belonging, the kind of laughter that sounds brave only when aimed downward. Lena heard them. She didn't slow. Her jaw tightened. Her hand flexed around the strap of her medical kit until her knuckles whitened. Then she exhaled, unclenched, and kept walking. Across the yard, Specialist Cole Barrett froze mid-step, a coil of comm cable slipping from his shoulder. He knew that walk, that voice, 2 years ago. It had come through his headset while tracer fire sliced the dark. "Breathe once," she'd said. "Now talk." He'd followed her calm through chaos that night. Now he watched as the same calm crossed a courtyard full of noise. Something in his chest burned hotter than the air. Military Police Sergeant Alicia Vega leaned against a Humvee nearby, hand resting on her sidearm. She caught the scene instantly, the posture, the smirk. The phone one operator was half raising. She stepped forward, caught his wrist mid-motion, and whispered, "Put it down. Now." The man blinked, startled. Her tone didn't need volume. It carried authority carved from years of desert nights. The phone lowered. The laughter died mid-echo. By the time anyone looked again, Lena had already disappeared into the haze beyond the tents. The courtyard grew quiet. Even the flies sounded nervous. 2 days earlier, that same sun had watched the road explode. Lena rode in the back of a Husky clearance truck, gear rattling, headset pressed tight. 1 second the road was flat and endless. The next it wasn't. The explosion didn't sound like fire. It sounded like the world inhaling too hard and snapping in half. Light, sound, and dust all hit at once. The truck flipped sideways, metal screaming as the earth twisted. Lena's teeth slammed together, her ears filled with a single endless note. Diesel fumes, cordite, smoke thick enough to taste. Her leg refused to move, but her hands didn't ask permission. Seatbelt release click. Door handle jammed. She reached under the seat, grabbed her pry bar, forced leverage through the frame. The first soldier she saw was upside down, bleeding from both ears. "Stay with me," she yelled. Her voice came out underwater, but it reached him. She dragged him clear by the vest handle, then crawled back into the wreckage. Rounds began cooking off pop-pop-crack as ammunition ignited. She didn't stop. A second man was trapped behind twisted metal. She pulled until her gloves smoked against the heat. The last one was heavier, unconscious, silent. Her boots scraped asphalt, filling with something warm. Pain announced itself late, almost politely. She ignored it, shifted her weight, and pulled him free. The world tilted again. She didn't fall until she felt his pulse under her fingers. 1 blink, 2. That was enough. Proof of life. When the medevac dust-off came, she refused to board first. Her words were slurred, but clear. "Get them out before me." They did. Then she passed out cold in the dirt. Now she walked that same ground again, bandaged, scarred, but upright. The men who laughed didn't know they were standing in the shadow of what she'd survived. Barrett knew. Vega knew. And the courtyard seemed to remember too. The air hung still, heavy, waiting for consequence. It wouldn't wait long. Because in places like Grayson, disrespect doesn't fade, it echoes. And this one was about to echo back louder than anyone expected. By dusk, everyone at Forward Operating Site Grayson had heard what happened in the courtyard. Stories traveled faster than radio signals out here. Every retelling made the laughter sharper, uglier, more undeniable. Sergeant Alicia Vega sat inside the security office, replaying footage from the perimeter cameras. Her eyes flicked between timestamps, zooming in on angles others would miss. 5 men in uniform, 1 woman walking through sunlight. A single moment of cruelty caught in frame. She paused, exhaled, then slid the clip onto a secure drive. Chain of evidence clean, sealed, irrefutable. By morning, Major Sloan would have it on her desk, across the base. Specialist Cole Barrett coiled comm cables in silence. The courtyard replayed in his mind with each loop. He'd seen arrogance before, but not like this. He remembered a firefight in Coast Province, 2 years earlier. Tracer rounds cutting the sky. His radio dead from shock. And her voice, breaking through static. "Breathe once. Now talk." That tone had steadied him while chaos chewed everything else apart. Now the same woman was being mocked by men who'd never heard that kind of calm. He tightened the cable until it bit into his glove. Outside, the desert wind shifted. It carried the smell of oil, iron, and unfinished business. Night brought a false quiet. Inside the barracks, the SEAL team pretended nothing had happened. Poker chips clicked. Laughter returned. But thinner this time, like a sound afraid of itself. Chief Coley tossed a card on the table. "People get soft out here," he muttered. "Everyone thinks respect's a right, not something you earn." No one replied. Hartley stared at his beer, hearing echoes of his own words from earlier. He caught himself whispering, "She heard us, didn't she?" Coley shrugged, not looking up. "Doesn't matter. Chain of command won't care." But his tone didn't match his words. Something beneath it wavered. The ceiling fan hummed. The desert waited. And somewhere outside, Vega's report was printing in Sloan's office. 0500. Lena Morgan woke to the sound of generators coughing alive. She tied her boots slower than usual, legs stiff from the day before. Outside her tent, the air smelled like dust and diesel morning in its most honest form. She checked her bag trauma kit, shears, saline, gauze, morphine, everything in its place. The body may falter, but the system never should. As she walked toward the med station, a voice called from behind, "Sergeant Morgan." Barrett stood there, eyes tired but clear. He hesitated, then said, "They don't know who you are. I think they need to." Lena looked at him, expression unreadable. "Everyone shows their truth eventually," she said. "Just not always on their terms." By 0600, Vega's evidence package reached Major Rebecca Sloan. The major didn't waste words. She read once, scrolled twice, then closed the laptop. "Get them all in the command tent," she told her aide. 0700 sharp. Full uniform. The siren hit before sunrise. 3 short wails, indirect fire warning. Dust rolled across the compound as soldiers hit the ground, instinct overriding thought. Inside a small supply shed, a young private panicked. He tried to climb a crate to reach trauma kits stacked high, knocking over half of them. "Leave it," someone shouted. Lena appeared in the doorway, crouched low. "Breathe once," she said. "Now talk. What do you need?" The words cut through the alarm's metallic scream like a hand on the shoulder. He froze, steadied himself, Tourniquets, he managed. Top shelf, left side, hand them to me. Together they worked through the chaos, one handing, one organizing. Outside. The siren died, replaced by the echo of rotors. When it ended, Lena stood, brushing dust from her sleeves. Barrett had been watching through the broken window. He recognized the same focus, the same rhythm from that night years ago. In chaos, she made order look effortless. He whispered under his breath, "She's still saving us." Later that evening, in the mess hall, tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Coley stood near the vending machine, voice low but sharp. "You've been whispering all day." Barrett, "Got something to say?" Barrett turned. "Yeah," he said. "You ridiculed a soldier who bled for you." Every conversation around them stopped. Hartley stared between them, sweat forming at his temple. Coley smirked. A defense mechanism too old to die easy. "Watch yourself." "Specialist." Alicia Vega entered just then, boots loud on the tile. "Both of you. Command tent. 0700. Full dress." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The SEALs didn't argue. Barrett didn't blink. Vega turned and walked out, leaving silence in her wake. Outside, the desert light dimmed into copper and ash. Somewhere beyond the horizon, thunder rolled not from weather, but artillery drills. The base lights flickered once, then steadied. Tomorrow would come with orders and consequences. No one at Grayson's slept easy that night. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the sound of reckoning. 0700 hours. The air inside the command tent was too still, too clean. Major Rebecca Sloan stood behind a folding table stacked with reports, her presence slicing through the quiet like steel through paper. 5 SEALs stood in formation opposite her, their uniforms pressed, boots shined, expressions caught between arrogance and dread. Chief Petty Officer Travis Coley stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Sergeant Alicia Vega placed a small drive on the table. "Body cam footage," she said, "multiple angles, multiple witnesses." Sloan nodded once and hit play. Laughter filled the tent, the kind that curdles when played back in silence, the kind no one can defend once it's recorded. Hartley's face blanched as his own voice echoed, "Guess she's done playing soldier." The line hit harder without the bravado to carry it. No one looked at him. Sloan stopped the video, folded her hands. "This base runs on discipline," she said, "not mockery. You mocked a medic who still wears her wounds from a mission that saved lives." Coley's throat worked once before words came. "With respect. Ma'am, things get said in jest." Sloan's eyes didn't move. Respect isn't what you call it after the damage is done. The tent flap rustled. Commander Holloway entered, sleeves rolled up, dust still clinging to his boots. He didn't need an introduction. The room straightened instinctively. He set a folder on the table, flipped it open. "Petty Officer Hartley," he said. "Helmand Province, 2019, collapsed lung, internal hemorrhage, 2 fractured ribs. You were declared non-responsive at extraction." Hartley blinked, confused. "Sir, I don't remember." "That's because you were unconscious." Holloway continued. "But before you went under, someone kept you breathing for 27 minutes with one hand and a pen tube." The silence was absolute. Sloan folded her arms, watching him process it. Holloway's tone dropped. "That medic's name was Staff Sergeant Lena Morgan." Hartley's lips parted. She was there. She was the reason you ever got home." Holloway said, "And yesterday, you laughed at the woman who kept you alive." The air left the room. Even Coley's practiced stoicism cracked. For the first time. No one looked like a soldier, just people confronted by truth. Before anyone could speak, a voice shouted outside, "Injury in the courtyard. Massive bleed." Sloan didn't hesitate. "Move." They burst into the sunlight, eyes blinking against the glare. A young engineer lay sprawled beside the generator pit, his forearm split open from wrist to elbow. Blood pooled fast, dark, unstoppable. Coley dropped to his knees, pressing his hand down hard. "Tourniquet," he barked. Hartley scrambled for his belt, fumbling. The wound pulsed, slick and bright. Higher, a calm voice said. Coley looked up and froze. Lena Morgan stood there, limping but steady, crutch under one arm, trauma kit in the other. Her expression was controlled, her breathing measured. She knelt beside him without asking permission. "Lock your wrist," she said. "Pull until he curses or passes out. That's when it's working." Coley followed her orders without thought. Hartley tightened the belt, his hands shaking. "Check his pulse," she continued. "Neck, not wrist. You'll feel truth there." He obeyed. "Still beating," he whispered. "Then don't stop." Her hands moved with mechanical precision. Gauze, clamp, pressure, voice steady. The courtyard around them dissolved into silence, except for commands and breathing. Vega cleared a path for the med team. Sloan arrived last, watching from the edge as Lena worked, wounded, limping, unstoppable. Within 2 minutes and 13 seconds, the bleeding slowed. "Hold that pressure," Lena said, standing carefully. Her leg trembled once but held. She looked down at Coley. "Drink some water. You're pale." The line hit him harder than any reprimand. He nodded mutely, blood still drying on his gloves. For a moment, he saw himself through her eyes, a man who almost let mockery define him. The medics lifted the injured man onto a stretcher and carried him toward the infirmary. Lena stepped back, wiping her hands on her fatigues. Her crutch sank slightly into the sand, but her balance never faltered. Coley rose to his feet, staring after her. He wanted to say something, anything, but words refused to come. All he managed was a whisper. "Thank you." She turned her head slightly. "Don't thank me," she said. "Just do better." Then she walked away, each step slow but sure. The courtyard stayed silent long after she left. Vega checked her watch. 2 minutes, 13 seconds. That was how long it had taken for Respect to return to Grayson. Inside the command tent, the recorder still sat paused on a frame of laughter. By the time they returned, no one could stand to press play again. The hearing resumed that afternoon. The heat pressed down heavier than before, as if the desert itself wanted to witness what came next. Every man in that tent had seen Lena Morgan save a life hours earlier. None could forget it. Major Rebecca Sloan stood once more behind the table. This time, she didn't need a screen or a file. The courtyard had already delivered the verdict. Her words came slow and deliberate, like stones dropped into still water. "Disrespect corrodes faster than rust," she said. "And on this base, corrosion spreads fast." She turned toward the SEALs. "You are professionals. Act like it." Each word landed with surgical precision. Hartley's head hung low, his shoulders squared as if awaiting impact. Coley kept his gaze locked forward, but guilt had already done its work. The others followed suit, no excuses, no arguments left. Sloan lifted a paper from the folder. "Effective immediately," she said. "All personnel involved are reassigned to rehabilitation duty for injured service members. You will serve those who carry scars until you understand what they mean." Her tone wasn't vengeful. It was correction disguised as mercy. Coley nodded once. He didn't flinch at the word reassigned. For the first time, he felt like it was the right consequence. Commander Holloway stepped forward. He looked toward Lena, who stood near the tent's entrance, leaning on her crutch but refusing the offered chair. "Sergeant Morgan," he said, "you kept my men breathing again. I won't forget that." She met his eyes, calm, steady. "I just did my job." "Sir, then you've redefined what that means," Holloway replied. He brought his hand up in salute. It wasn't dramatic, just deliberate, a moment between soldiers who understood cost. Lena returned it, slow but unshaking. Outside, the wind picked up, dragging the smell of diesel and iron through the tent. No applause followed, no speeches, just quiet understanding. Weeks passed. The base returned to its rhythm convoys, drills, dust, and long silences between them. But for Coley, nothing felt the same. He spent his mornings inside the rehab ward, surrounded by soldiers learning to walk again, men missing limbs, women relearning grip strength, laughter that sounded like defiance. He carried supplies, cleaned dressings, listened to stories he used to avoid hearing. One afternoon, an amputee sergeant dropped a cup and muttered, "You're allowed to laugh, Chief." Coley smiled faintly. Maybe someday. He picked up the cup, rinsed it, and set it back, his hands steadier than they'd been in months. Later that night, he sat alone in the rec room. The hum of the air conditioner filled the quiet. He started writing first draft, then second. Both crumpled. The third, he kept, "Sergeant First Class Morgan." He wrote, "I let an insult I can't take back, but I've spent weeks watching men relearn how to walk, how to grip a fork, how to say their own names without flinching. Dignity heals where medicine can't reach. I don't ask for forgiveness. I ask for a chance to earn it." He signed it respectfully, Chief Travis Coley. He folded the page and mailed it through base post before he could second-guess it. Then he waited without expecting a reply. 2 weeks later, a small envelope appeared in his locker. No return address. Just neat handwriting that looked like discipline itself. He opened it slowly. "Chief Coley, the measure of a soldier isn't rank or record. It's how they treat those still fighting their hardest battles. Keep treating them well. That will be enough. L. Morgan." He read it twice, then a third time. Folded it carefully, once, and slipped it behind his dog tags. Some debts weren't meant to be paid, only honored. At dawn the next morning, the courtyard was quiet again. Lena crossed it slowly, sunlight catching the edge of her crutch. 2 new SEALs stood nearby, whispering, then stepping aside to clear her path. She nodded slightly in acknowledgement, neither smiling nor scolding. Respect had found its place again, wordless, earned, absolute. Somewhere beyond the barracks, a young medic knelt beside a panicking recruit. "Breathe once," she said softly. "Now talk." The recruit did. The panic eased. The words weren't hers originally. They belonged to Lena Morgan, passed down like a code. A small, living legacy that needed no medals to survive. As the camera of memory pulled back, the base shrank under the vast desert sky. Engines rumbled. Flags stirred. Life continued. Honor wasn't thunder. It was footsteps that kept going. "If you've served," the voiceover said, "you know this truth. If you haven't, carry it anyway." Then the screen faded to black, and in the silence after, the only sound left was the heartbeat of respect. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.